Throughout human history, the birth of almost every nation has been a fight for independence, a struggle marked by blood and glory. But there is one solitary exception. Singapore's independence was not a victory, but an abandonment. In 9th of August, 1965, Singapore was expelled from Malaysia, a federation it had fought to join just 2 years earlier. Why? To unravel the mystery of this abandonment, we must turn the clock back 20 years. After the end of World War II, Britain reassumed control of Singapore. On the surface, it was a victor. But in reality, the British Empire was already in decline. The war had exhausted its finances, and the colonial system began to loosen across the board. The wave of national independence had become unstoppable. In August 1950, a young Singaporean lawyer returned to his hometown. His name was Lee Kuan Yew. 4 years later, he founded the People's Action Party and, in its early stages, cooperated with left-wing and communist forces to jointly oppose British colonial rule. In August 1957, Malaya peacefully achieved independence. Singapore, however, remained firmly under British control. In 1959, Britain finally allowed Singapore to achieve internal self-government. The PAP won the general election, and Lee Kuan Yew became Prime Minister. However, he was well aware that Singapore possessed almost no conditions for independent survival. With a tiny territory, no natural resources, no arable land, and no fresh water, in Lee Kuan Yew's view, the only realistic option was to merge with Malaya. This would not only facilitate shared resources and security guarantees, but also suppress the growing communist forces within Singapore. At the time, being accepted by Malaya was considered the best possible outcome. However, Malayan Prime Minister Tunku Abdul Rahman initially rejected this proposal. His concerns were very pragmatic. The large number of Chinese voters could impact the political dominance of the Malays. In 1961, Lee Kuan Yew pushed for a grander vision, merging Singapore, Malaya, Sabah, Sarawak, and Brunei to form a new country, Malaysia. This way, the proportion of Chinese in Singapore would be diluted by the indigenous populations of East Malaysia. The Tunku changed his stance. In September 1962, Singapore held a referendum on merger. However, the ballot contained no option to oppose merger. All three options implicitly accepted the merger, differing only in their terms. The opposition could only urge voters to cast blank votes. Ultimately, 71% supported option A, while 26% cast blank votes. In 1963, Malaya, Singapore, Sabah, and Sarawak formally formed the Federation of Malaysia. However, this union was fraught with cracks from the very beginning. At the federal level, the ruling coalition consisted of UMNO, MCA, and MIC. Their goal was clear: to establish a Malaysia centered on the Malays, granting them special privileges. In Singapore, however, the People's Action Party put forward the slogan, Malaysian Malaysia. Regardless of race or religion, everyone is equal. Originally, the Tunku and Lee Kuan Yew had reached a tacit agreement. The PAP would not participate in elections in Malaya, and the Federation would not interfere in Singaporean politics. However, in the 1963 Singapore general election, the alliance fielded a large number of candidates in an attempt to seize power in Singapore. The result was a total defeat. The following year, the People's Action Party counterattacked by contesting the general election in Malaya and winning a seat. Combined with its parliamentary seats in Singapore, the PAP became the largest opposition party in Malaysia. For UMNO, this was an intolerable political threat. A highly autonomous and economically efficient state, dominated by a Chinese majority and led by an exceptionally charismatic leader, was rapidly gaining influence within the Federation. From UMNO's perspective, given a few more years, Lee Kuan Yew could fundamentally reshape Malaysia's entire political landscape. To Malay nationalists, this was simply intolerable. The federation completely lost its foundation of trust. In 1965, negotiations broke down. The Malaysian government made the decision to expel Singapore from the federation. In the next episode, we will return to the period after 1965 and explore how Singapore, forced into independence with virtually no resources, rose within a single generation to become one of the world's wealthiest nations. If you'd like to continue this story, don't forget to like and subscribe.